Let's take a look at Odyssey Part 1. We're on PDF page 19, and this is the land of the dead. So a section's been left out to get us caught up. We've got to read that italicized portion. It says, Odysseus and his men sailed to Aeolia, where Aeolus, king of the winds, sends Odysseus on his way with a gift. He gives him a sack containing all the winds except the favorable west wind. So that would enable Odysseus to sail with only the west wind that is favorable, which would get him home to Ithaca. However, remember, his men are foolish. When they are near home, his men open the sack and they let loose a storm that drives them back to Aeolia. Aeolus casts them out. He's decided that they are detested by the gods. They sail for 7 days and arrive in the land of the Laestrygonians, a race of cannibals. These creatures destroy all of Odysseus' ships except the one he is sailing in. Odysseus and his reduced crew escape and reach Aea, which is the island ruled by the sorceress goddess Circe. She transforms half of the men into swine, and Odysseus is protected by a magic herb. So he demands that Circe changes men back into human form. Before Odysseus departs from the island a year later, Circe informs him that in order to reach home, he must journey to the land of the dead, Hades. He has to go to Hades, and he has to talk to the blind prophet Tiresias. It says, we bore down, and you're looking at my copy, so you can see all my annotations. We bore down on the ship at the sea's edge and launched her on the salt immortal sea, stepping our mast and spar in the black ship. Embarked the ram and the ewe and went aboard in tears with bitter and sore dread upon us. But now came a breeze up from us astern, a canvas-bellying land breeze, hail shipmate, or it was perfect, sent by the singing nymph with sun-bright hair. Now, singing nymph with sun-bright hair, that type of figure of speech should look familiar to you. Trying to highlight it, but it's not having it. Okay, so if I could highlight right now, I would highlight singing nymph with sun-bright hair, and that gives you an example of, is it a kenning, or is that an epithet? Okay, Circe's name is not there, so it is a kenning, because it's replacing her name. There, I've got my highlighter now. No, not working. So we made fast the braces, took our thwarts, or our discomforts, and let the wind and steersman work the ship with full sail spread all day above our coursing, till the sun dipped, and all the ways grew dark upon the fathomless, unresting sea. By night, our ship ran onward toward the ocean's bourne, or boundary, the realm and region of the men of winter, hidden in mist and cloud. Never the flaming eye of Helios lights on those men. Never the healing light of Helios shines on those men at morning, when he climbs the sky of stars, nor in descending earthward out of heaven. Ruinous night being rove over those wretches, those men who are miserable. We made the land, put Ram and you ashore, and took our way along the ocean stream to find the place foretold for us by Circe. There, Paramedes and Eurylochus shackled or pinioned the sacred beasts, and with my blade drawn, I spaded up the votive pit and poured libations, or he's making a sacrifice, okay? Around this pit, he's pouring libations of wine, water, and so on. Around this pit, he's making a sacrifice to all of the dead people in Hades. And remember, when you're reading and you see your colon, he's going to tell you more. He's telling you that he pours libations of sweet milk and honey, then sweet wine, and last clear water. And then he scatters barley down. Then I address the blurred and breathless dead, vowing to slaughter my best heifer for them before she calved at home in Ithaca, and burn the choice bits on the altar fire. You can treat semicolons. You can treat those almost like a period. If you need to pause there, you can treat that almost like a period, because a semicolon in a text like this is usually going to join two complete sentences, but the two complete sentences are related. Usually the second one explains more about the first. Okay? So he's saying, I will, if you go back to line 555, I address the blurred and breathless dead. All these ghosts are coming toward him, vowing to slaughter my best heifer for them before she calved at home in Ithaca, and burn the choice bits on the altar fire. And as for Tiresias, who is the one he is in Hades to find, I swore to sacrifice a black lamb, handsomest of all our flock, thus to assuage or lessen the nations of the dead. I pledged these rites, then slashed the lamb and you, letting their black blood stream into the well pit. Now souls gathered, stirring out of... Okay, let's sound that one out. Over here, you see it? Erebus. That's not one we hear a whole lot. Erebus. So the stress is on that first syllable, so that's your louder syllable. Erebus. Okay. Now the souls gathered, stirring out of Erebus, brides and young men, and men grown old in pain, and tender girls whose hearts were new to grief. Many were there too, torn by brazen lance heads. They were slain in battle slain, bearing still their bloody gear. From every side they came, and they sought or looked for the pit, with rustling cries, and I grew sick with fear. But presently I gave command to my officers to flay or skin those sheep, the bronze cut down, and make burnt offerings of flesh to the gods below. I'll make offerings to sovereign death. You know, death is the supremely powerful sovereign death. To pale Persephone, and to pale Persephone. Meanwhile, I crouched with my dawn sword to keep the surging phantoms from the bloody pit, till I should know the presence of Tiresias. He's waiting for Tiresias. One shade came first, Elpenor of our company, who lay unburied still on the wide earth as we had left him. He was dead in Circe's hall, but he was untouched and unmourned when other cares forced us or compelled us. Now when I saw him there, I wept for pity and called out to him. And here's what I said. How is this, Elpenor? How could you journey to the western gloom swifter of foot than I in the black lugger or in the ship, the boat? He sighed and answered, you know, when Odysseus's man starts to tell this, son of great Laertes, Odysseus, master mariner and soldier, bad luck shadowed me, and no kindly power. And I'm going to pause there because, you know, there's a semicolon, which I'm going to right there treat as a period. And I want to call your attention to something. Notice, if you haven't already, that so often people are referred to by their lineage because your family tree is extremely important in this heroic society. Okay? If your ancestors were, I mean, for lack of a better way to say it, if they were good, you're expected to be good. If they were scoundrels, then it gives you a bad name as well. That's oversimplified, but you get the idea, perhaps. Okay, so Odysseus's man says that he suffered an ignoble death, which means shameful, right here. Shameful death. He says, I drank too much wine. I slept on Circe's roof, then could not see the long, steep backward ladder coming down and fell that height. My neck bone buckled under, snapped, and my spirit found this well of dark. Now hear the grace I pray for, in the name of those back in the world, not here, your wife, Odysseus, and father, he who gave you bread in childhood, and your own child, your only son, Telemachus, long ago left at home. When you make sail and put these lodgings of dim death behind, you will moor your ship, or you will land and anchor down upon Aea Island. There, O my Lord, remember me, I pray. Do not abandon me unwept, unburied, to tempt the gods' wrath while you sail for home. Okay, so something that we see there that's important is if you go up to line 589, right here. It is every soldier's hope in this heroic society to die a heroic death in battle. And so, tale of how he passed, that's a shameful way to die. He would much rather have died in battle. Okay, and the other thing you start to see down here is around 598, 599, 600. Okay, he wants to be remembered. Don't forget about me. Make sure you fire my corpse and all the gear I had. Okay? That, too, is extremely important. Okay? Because in a heroic society, they want to be remembered. The greatest way to be remembered is to be immortalized in verse, like Odysseus is in this poem, for example. So this is sort of a less flattering version of that. Okay? He says, please fire my corpse and all the gear I had, and build a cairn for me above the breakers, an unknown sailor's mark for men to come. Heap up the mound there and implant upon it the oar that I pulled, my oar from your ship, the one that I rowed with my companions. He ceased, and I replied, unhappy spirit, I promise you the barrow and the burial. So we conversed, and grimly at a distance with my long sword between, guarding the blood while the faint image of the lad spoke on. Now came the soul of Anticlea, dead, my mother. And I'm going to, daughter of Autolycus, dead now, though she was living still when I took ship for holy Troy. Seeing this ghost of my mother, I grieved, but held her off, through pang on pang of tears, till I should know the presence of Tiresias. Soon from the dark, that prince of Thebes came forward, bearing a golden staff, and he addressed me. And you know there's going to be a colon introducing what he said. And also, that prince of Thebes, kenning or epithet? Right, that's a kenning. Came forward, bearing his golden staff, and he addressed me. He says, son of Laertes, and the gods of old. Now, Tiresias is a blind seer, so he is a prophet. He can make predictions, and it's ironic that he can see so many secrets of the world, yet he is physically blind. So, son of Laertes and the gods of old, Odysseus, master of landways and seaways, why leave the blazing sun, O man of woe, or man of bad things happening to him all the time, to see the cold dead in the joyless region? Stand clear, put up your sword. Let me but taste of blood, I shall speak true. At this I stepped aside, and in the scabbard let my long sword ring home to the pommel's silver as he bent down to the somber blood. So Odysseus puts his sword in its scabbard down to the handle, and Tiresias is checking out basically the sacrifice. Then spoke the prince of those with gift of speech. Great captain, a fair wind and the honey lights of home are all you seek, but anguish lies ahead. The God who thunders on the land prepares it. Now, what about that? God who thunders on the land. That would be kenning for Poseidon. But anguish lies ahead. The God who thunders on the land prepares that anguish, not to be shaken from your track, implacable, in rancor or years of anger, for the son whose eye you blinded. So Poseidon is upset because Odysseus blinded his son, the Cyclops. One narrow strait may take you through his blows. Denial of yourself, restraint of shipmates. When you make landfall on, okay, I looked this one up. Thraincia. When you make landfall on Thraincia first and quit the violet sea, dark on the land, you'll find the grazing herds of Helios, by whom all things are seen, all speech is known. Avoid these cattle, hold fast to your intent, and hard seafaring brings you all to Ithaca. But remember, his men are foolish. And back to line 645. But if you raid the beeves, I see destruction. So if you raid those cattle, there will be destruction for ship and crew. Though you survive alone, deprived or bereft of all companions, lost for years under strange sail, shall you come home to find your house filled with trouble. Rude or insolent men will be eating your livestock when you get home if you raid those cattle, as they court your lady, your wife Penelope. Aye, you shall make those men atone or pay in blood. But after you have dealt out death in open combat or by stealth to all the suitors, go overland on foot and take an oar, okay, get a ship, until one day you come where men have lived with meat unsalted, never known the sea, nor seen sea-going ships with crimson bows and oars that fledge light hulls for dipping flight. The spot will soon be plain to you, and I can tell you how. When you get there, some passerby will say, "What winnowing fan is that upon your shoulder?" When you hear that, you stop, halt, and implant your smooth oar in the turf, and make fair sacrifice to Lord Poseidon, a ram, a bull, a great buck-boar. Turn back and carry out pure hecatombs, or huge, large-scale sacrifices at home to all wide heaven's lords, the undying gods to each in order. Then a sea-born death, soft as this hand of mist, will come to you when you are wearied out with rich old age, your country folk in blessed peace around you. And all this shall be just as I foretold. So now they have lots of information, whether they listen to Tiresias or not. That is another story. Let me know if you have questions. Take care.